The Saints aren't playing on championship weekend, but they're making some headlines, and it all has to do with Michael Thomas's latest activity on social media. Let's talk about it right here on the Straight Up Saints podcast.
You're listening to the Straight Up Saints podcast.
What is up, Who Dat Nation? I'm your host, Chris Rosvoglu of the Straight Up Saints podcast, brought to you by Scott Vicknair Injury Lawyers and by DraftKings Sportsbook. Like I said, the Saints aren't playing on this Sunday. Hell, they haven't played in several Sundays. It's been a while. And yet they're making noise on social media this Sunday, and it all has to stem around Michael Thomas and some messages that he fired out on social media. A lot to say about Derek Carr, a lot to say about the Saints regime, their search for a new offensive coordinator, and even his interest in playing for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's right. So let's go through all of this because it sounds like an awful lot. It is an awful lot, but I would expect nothing less because this is just the way the Saints have been the last couple of years. A lot of drama, not a lot of success. So let's get into where it started. So Michael Thomas tweets after Patrick Mahomes made a nice throw. He said, you see what they said about how Mahomes used his eyes there and then used the eye emoji. Pretty much him subbing Derek Carr because remember when he got hurt against the Minnesota Vikings, he felt like Derek Carr didn't look off the safety. And because of that, Michael Thomas took a pretty hard shot from the back. And because of that, he hurt his knee. So he kind of holds a grudge. At least it feels that way. He tweets that out. Then he shows a video of it and he goes, they be mad when I say it. Then later on, someone mentions something else to Derek Carr and says, I've been trying to recruit him every year. I want to see him in a Chiefs jersey ASAP. He responds, facts, God's timing, be the best too. Does that mean he's going to the Chiefs? I can't say for certain. Does it seem that he's open to the idea? Absolutely. Now, the most damning information, I think, goes when someone mentioned Michael Thomas to that tweet. They said, Mike, if you can stay healthy, you'll have this stat you had when Drew was around, which I don't agree with at all. I think that's just being a delusional fan. But he responds, well, if I didn't get set up by a bad ball, I probably would have had a light little 1,000 yards this year, but coulda, shoulda. I know I get it. LOL. And someone responded back, facts, any change of scenery probably would be best anyhow. And he said, on top of that, they weren't even trying to get me the ball, but it's no denying my style play. It doesn't age. Player, you will see. Now, I agree with him. I don't think his style of play ages. I think, if anything, Mike is just in a Saints offense that's not good, and B, is getting older. He's just not the same player. I don't think it has anything to do with his play style. I think it's more so his body's just breaking down, and he's not in a great system right now that maximizes it. So then that response to that last tweet is from another person says, waiting for the Saints to get rid themselves of the cancer that is Michael Thomas report to come out. Basically being sarcastic and saying that Who Dat Nation is getting gaslighted into believing that Michael Thomas is the problem, when in reality it's the regime like Mickey Loomis, like Dennis Allen, all that stuff. Now Mike responds to that. LOL, written by Jeff Duncan, but I bet he won't write why no offensive coordinator is taking the job they've interviewed. It's all propaganda and politics. I play the sport the right way. I will always rise. So, a lot to digest, a lot to get through. Let's break it all down with all those. First, him mentioning Derek Carr not using his eyes. I don't really care about that. Look, it happened in the Minnesota game. I thought it was a bad decision from Derek Carr. Derek Carr made a lot of bad decisions during this season. There's nothing really shocking there. To bring that up now, look, I think it's a little lame, but fine. To mention the offensive coordinator thing with no one getting the job, to mention the Saints weren't trying to get him the ball, all of that stuff. Part of it is frustrating because I'm going to be honest, I'm kind of tired of this whole Michael Thomas situation with the Saints. I'm tired of the Saints. I'm tired of Michael Thomas. It's not exclusive to one party. I think both parties are to blame. But to mention the offensive coordinator thing and how no one's taken the job and pretty much hinting at the regime not being where we want them to be, that's a little concerning. I don't know if this leads to anything. What I would say, though, after reading Sunday's tweets, if you think Michael Thomas is going to be on the Saints next year, I got to know what you're doing on the weekends because I don't see how it happens. I don't anticipate it. I'd imagine Mike will be playing elsewhere next year. I'm not saying that's the best thing for the Saints. I'm not saying that's the best thing for Mike, although I think both parties would benefit from a split here. I just think it's unfortunate. This is a guy who started his career with the Saints on an all-pro pace. Offensive Player of the Year, was the first wide receiver to win Offensive Player of the Year since Jerry Rice. And just to see it crumbling ever since, whether it's from injuries, whether it's from bad blood, whether it's bad coaching, bad management, bad quarterback play, whoever you want to blame, there's a lot of hands that go into this pot. It's just pretty frustrating. And what I will say about this, if you're just bashing Michael Thomas today, I don't know if that's the right response. But if you're acting like he's innocent in all this, I don't think that's the right response either. I see a lot of people saying, what's your take on this? Is he right? Is he wrong? Are some of the things he's saying right? Maybe, probably. Do I think that he has to do this? Maybe not. But I don't mind if people put pressure on Dennis Allen, put pressure on Mickey Loomis, because I think that this Saints organization has to wake the fuck up and realize that they're not where they were. They talk all about being uncomfortable, trying to make things uncomfortable and fix the culture. Culture wasn't a problem when Dennis Allen first got there. Now it's one of the worst cultures. Is that what I'm supposed to believe? Well, what changed? The coach changed. And I think that's one of the problems. And look, if Mike sees and he gets frustrated and he starts mentioning Derek Carr and what he doesn't like, I'm sure he's not the only one who feels that way. And does it leak over? Like, who shares the same sentiment as Mike? And those guys that share that same sentiment, are they on the roster next year? That's a fascinating question, because I know Mike's not going to be there. But if other guys are, does that kind of seep through? How does that go? So I think this is just a fascinating situation overall for the Saints. There's no doubt about it.
Looking for a super offer for Super Bowl 58? DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered. New customers can bet on the big game and turn $5 into $200 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code BOOT. New customers can bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 58 with code BOOT. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/basketball terms.
Once again, thank you to DraftKings Sportsbook for being part of the program. So let me know what you think about this situation with Michael Thomas. Do you feel like it's the end of the MT era? I think that's a pretty easy yes. But we'll see. Crazier things have happened. Let me know your thoughts below, but it's very clear that Michael Thomas is sounding off on the Saints. And as always, guys, make sure to subscribe to more YouTube videos here at Boo Crew Media and stay tuned for more content from the Straight Up Saints podcast, the destination for the Who Dat Nation.